Hello, I'm Rod Garvin, SVP of Talent Insights with the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance. I also serve as Executive Director of the CLT Allowance Foundation. Today we have two very special guests. Chris Paynter is Dean of STEM, Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math at Central Piedmont Community College. We also have Crystal Glenn, Associate Dean in the School of Workforce Development and the Arts at Catawba Valley Community College. This conversation is a part of our Talent Insights Forum, which was originally scheduled for March 19th, actually, the week that the pandemic hit our region and hit our market. So we rescheduled. We're having a virtual meeting, or by the time you view this, so that we can reach an even broader audience. Well, Chris and Crystal, let's get into it. We know how much has changed. Every sector of our society, every sector of our economy has been deeply impacted by COVID-19, and higher ed in particular. And I must say, I admire the agility, the changes, the adaptation that's taken place in higher education. Our community colleges have been at the forefront of workforce development for quite some time. I want to share a little bit of a survey that we shared earlier. We actually wanted to capture responses of higher ed institutions in terms of how they're managing around COVID-19. We found that 79% indicated that they had shifted to virtual learning. And that was only about a month into the pandemic, but at that time, almost 80%, 14% said that they were already primarily online, interestingly enough. So there are some institutions that have primarily engaged in online delivery for quite some time. Now that we're really a couple months in, several weeks in terms of online education delivery, what are the current plans for digital learning? Does this continue for the foreseeable future?
Well, I can respond for Central Piedmont. We are trying to focus on health and safety foremost. Of course, that's our primary concern. And we do intend to continue with virtual instruction in all but the rarest circumstances. There are some specialized programs in the health sciences or the skilled trades areas where we've been able to create smaller group settings for lab activities to continue, but those are really very isolated, and the vast majority of our students are continuing to learn online. We have that plan in place for this summer going forward, and even into the fall, our expectation is to begin as virtual as possible into the fall, but we have the hope that we will be able to return to campus in limited fashion later into 2020, but we're keeping our schedule as flexible as possible to ensure the safety and health of our students and employees.
And from CVCC's perspective, Ron, we're mirroring what Central Piedmont is doing. We're pretty much doing the same thing. And I just have to compliment all 58 community colleges. It is amazing how the staff and faculty have been very innovative and entrepreneurial in determining ways they can ensure students and clients are receiving a quality education and training, whether the platform is WebEx, Zoom, GoToMeeting, Google Hangouts. They've all just been incredibly flexible and creative in making sure that we're getting the students what they need.
Yeah, we really can't say enough about what our faculty and staff have done. They've really been quite tremendous in their efforts and adaptability, and our students too have shown remarkable resilience. As we speak right now, we're in our final exam period, and later this week we would have had our graduation ceremony. And we regret that we won't have that time to gather and celebrate our student success for those who are graduating in 2020. But we are just so proud of our students and so proud of our faculty and staff as well.
appreciate those thoughts. I believe, you know, regardless of, you know, what happens with the pandemic, we're holding out hope that a vaccine will be found. But we really won't ever return completely to the previous normal. So we'll most likely see more of a hybrid. I think we know that in-person learning is still important, and we want to pursue that. But online learning is elevated in a way that is going to be with us indefinitely. Crystal, you and I had an opportunity to talk recently, and you brought up this issue of internet connectivity and broadband access, particularly as it may relate to economically challenged individuals or those in more rural parts of the region. Our Alliance Advocacy and Public Policy team is very focused on helping to move our infrastructure forward and make sure we go through the necessary changes in transportation as we think about energy and other areas, but also this issue of internet access. What is Catawba Valley Community College doing now to help bridge that gap?
Well, currently, I'll tell you what Catawba Valley Community College is doing, and many of the other 58 community colleges are doing similar things. So what we immediately did is we set up a hotline to address student and employee questions and needs for students that didn't have access to the online learning technology or have the technology itself. We set up a drive-through checkout point at our library where students and employees can check out laptops and hotspots. The campus also extended the parking lot Wi-Fi's accessibility across campus. But really, we're talking technology, and I'm sure as Chris and others have done, we had to really look at the students holistically. So other outreach efforts include, we set up meal bag distribution at Hawks Nest for CVC students and employees. Also for students and employees that are experiencing stress or anxiety, we had contact information that for resources that could be reached 24/7, as we know that mental health is a big issue right now. In addition to that, the instructors called all of their students, and student services and volunteers across our campus participated in Calling All Red Hawks, where we reached out and talked to each individual student. And last of all, for local business and industries, we set up a free Leader Talk series that was developed in partnership with K64 and the local chamber. And it was started in early April with sessions ranging from how to provide compassionate support and assistance to employees. These were discussions from mental health professionals all the way to our local public health officials providing information on how to protect employees and customers when return to work occurs.
You know, Rod, it's reassuring and inspiring to hear the consistency of these approaches as they're employed around the region or across the state of North Carolina. Central Piedmont and Catawba Valley are doing very similar things. There's been a huge emphasis on the individual outreach to all students via telephone, via the web, the food banks and the mental health services that we're making available to employees and students. And the focus on their overall well-being has been a cornerstone of our approach. And we know it's a hugely stressful and trying time for individuals who are at home, often doing homeschooling, childcare, schoolwork, as well as trying to maintain their engagement with their employer to keep income coming into the household. And we just know that there are so many things going on in their lives right now. We want to make sure that we're as flexible and accommodating and focusing on their needs as well. From a technology perspective, we have the mobile hotspots and mobile devices that we've made available to students. And we just received word this morning of another batch that had been received. As you can imagine, nationally, that technology is in high demand. We've just received another batch of hotspots and laptops that we are distributing to students who need them. And you know, using the WebEx as our institutional platform that's integrated into the learning management system, Blackboard in our case, has been a cornerstone for how we are engaging with our students and keeping them on track to meet their academic and professional goals.
Those are great updates. You know, how we think about access touches a number of issues. You know, the internet connectivity is one, but the flexibility to work with student schedules and the different lives that they lead is equally important. You brought up the issue of even childcare. So really like how the colleges are thinking about that comprehensively. Also have been impressed with the level of collaboration across our community college system. Often in higher ed, it can be very competitive, but it seems that how you all work together across the region is really about collaboration. We've been working closely with the Charlotte Regional Collaborative for a Global Workforce. I believe you all are familiar with the work we're doing around community college data, particularly as it relates to student enrollment and completion. We know the public data doesn't tell the full story. You know, we want to make sure that companies that are looking to relocate here and grow here understand the great talent that's coming out of our community colleges. We're advancing that through the CLT Alliance Foundation and also the Access to Opportunity Initiative, where we want to support your efforts to help extend education, training, and upskilling for those during COVID-19 and beyond. Want to switch tracks just a little bit. Thinking about employers in this current situation, we know that depending on industry, depending on company size, the talent demand from an employer side may look different. Hiring needs are varied. What are you all hearing from employers in terms of how they're thinking about hiring right now, and also work-based learning in the form of internships and apprenticeships? You want to start with that, Crystal?
Sure. I think that everyone realizes this has been an incredibly challenging time for employers and for them planning out over the next week, let alone the next year, the next 2 years, 3 years. So with their primary concern being the safety and well-being of employees, friends, family, and community, essential businesses in our area continue to have hiring needs. These are being fulfilled not only with currently graduating students, but they're also continuing to provide opportunities for our work-based learning students, especially apprenticeship.
Yes, and I hear similar things from our employers. The shift to an online work environment is not possible for every industry, and so we see and hear different things based on the industries that we're talking about. Many of our IT students have been able to continue with their co-ops or internships and have been able to successfully perform them virtually. Others have not had that same flexibility, and so other plans have been made. But we did see that through our career services, other industries picked up in hiring and announced growth in hiring, like at the Amazon distribution centers. And so we observed that as certain industries reduced their hiring or ongoing employment, we were able to offer opportunities to students in areas like at a distribution center where students could have opportunities, and we were very proactive in sharing those new opportunities to students who would be able to take advantage of them. So that the uncertainty and the short-term windows are consistent with what we're hearing as well, that the ability to plan looking forward is a challenging one, both for us in higher ed and for our private sector employers as well.
What would you say are the industries that seem to be most resilient from a hiring standpoint, those that have been able to adapt with virtual engagement, virtual learning, and are still able to hire in the current environment? Are there certain industries or even sectors that are standing out right now?
Well, you know, the data on this is really anecdotal. The full picture is really hard to say, but we're hearing that the skill technology occupations in financial services or information technology that use a PC or a workstation, a computer workstation. Those types of jobs are able to go on, and they need help. The shift towards support for online work from our entry-level technical occupations is still very much there. And so that's where we're seeing a lot of that in my area right now.
Also, Ron, a lot of the companies that were deemed as essential are still have hiring needs. We got some requests from employers on Friday. So those companies, and there are a large number of them in the greater Charlotte region that are producing PPE for COVID-19, that are producing medical supplies, COVID-19 test kits. All of those companies are continuing to run in a safe manner, and their hiring needs have only increased.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's been an amazing story, amazing national story, but definitely a great Charlotte story. You know, how our manufacturers have, repurposed their workforce and their operations to meet the current need around PPEs and medical supplies. That's definitely a story worth sharing and telling. I want to go back to thinking about manufacturing and technology as highly skilled endeavors. Those are areas where we know there's specialized training, knowledge that individuals have to have, enhanced exposure to application. When you think about your total, student populations, at CPCC, at CVCC, and even more broadly, I don't know if you have an exact percentage, but thinking about those fields, those industries, and those career paths that have the greatest opportunity from an employment and economic stability standpoint, how aligned would you say your student populations are, particularly thinking about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math? Is it more than half? Is it less than half, a quarter? What would you say from that standpoint? Chris, you want to take that?
Sure. Here at Central Piedmont, the percentage of students who are enrolled in STEM programs, IT, engineering, students who want to transfer into the sciences or transfer into engineering represents a little less than a quarter of our student body. That would include approximate numbers for our health careers program. So the biggest program for our students is the transfer to the Bachelor's of Arts program. And while, yes, certainly there are great opportunities with a Bachelor's in Arts, and we know that that's true, there are also other opportunities in the sciences that may, work for a family's needs and a person's ability to handle the quantitative, the analytical skill sets in those types of jobs. So really just about a quarter of our students are indicating that their goals are to get into the STEM fields right now.
And Chris, what I would add to what has been said, if you look, Ron, at what's been going on in the field of STEM, probably most of the 58 community colleges over the past 10 years have been making a lot of effort to connect their students, not only their community college students to STEM careers, but also connect high school students and middle school students to STEM careers. Because in order to increase those numbers of individuals going into STEM, we have to help them understand what are the career opportunities and what is the economic development connected to it. So I can just speak for CVCC. We partnered with local business and government over 10 years ago, and we started with middle school students where we would expose them to the educational degrees and certificates in STEM fields and take the students out to businesses that had careers in STEM. And again, we're just one of the colleges. We called it Extreme STEM Tours, and the 8th graders toured, all 8th graders in our area toured local businesses, and then they came to CVCC to view the education that was required to enter the careers. our president started this initiative called Education Matters, and now it's evolved into Case 64, which is a partnership between business, education, and government that's led by the county commissioners. But if you go and talk to any of the 58, you're going to hear similar stories. So the numbers that you see out there are after a lot of work that's gone on for many years.
And North Carolina has been very intentional to increase that connection of the pathways from middle, high school into the community colleges, onto the universities. And one of the primary mechanisms for that is the dual enrollment career and college promise program that gives high school students in certain select pathways, certainly those STEM pathways, but others, tuition-free access to the community college courses. And so the students in their local high school districts are able to partner on establishing pathways that allow certain students and certain pathways free access to community college coursework, which often transfers onto the universities as well.
Those are great points. We have to go early as possible in the life of a student and the development of a student. A lot's been done at the high school level. We have to do more at the middle school and even elementary level to make sure the students are aware of all the possibilities and that they can align their talents, their interests, and passion with the best possible career path. Appreciate that perspective. You know, as we wrap up, you know, just thinking towards the future, what would you say our greatest challenge is, or our greatest opportunity? I believe challenge and opportunity are two sides of the same coin. But what do we need to do to make sure that we continue to develop young people as well as those who are changing careers and looking for new opportunities? You know, what must be done in this new world that's being created that we're experiencing now, but we know is going to be significantly different once we get through this pandemic?
Well, we need to continue to show the connection between the mathematical and scientific theory that students learn in the classroom to the really exciting and extreme STEM careers that are out there, and show them how what they're learning in their high schools and college coursework has a direct impact on their ability to find a career that can support their family, but also lead to growth and a continued progression onward past that first job into a career that can lead to a lifetime both of learning, but then also economic success.
And our president has a framed sign on the corridor outside of his area. And as you walk into the reception area, you walk past that sign. And that sign has the 6 deadliest words. Those words are, "We've always done it that way." I think our greatest challenge as a region is going to be for us to be willing to say, why not? What if? How can we? Rather than this is why we can't, and you fill in the blank. We have to be willing to let others take risk and fail and give others credit and assistance. And we have to remember, when the tide rises, all boats float.
Thank you for those words. I'm encouraged by what's happening in our higher education institutions, our community colleges, our 4-year, bachelor degree colleges, the tremendous workforce development boards and other training organizations. We've got a great story to tell. Thank you for the work that you all are doing. Appreciate you being with us, Crystal and Chris. Look forward to continuing the conversation in the future.
Well, thank you, Rod, and thanks to the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance for organizing this session. We really appreciate everything that y'all do to support us.
I agree. Thank you, Rod.
Bye for now.